Hello, hello, hello. 3:04 p.m. Thursday, September 4th, 2025. Mark Kulak, Houstonic.live show brought to you by a previous big tech industry data storage analyst, competitive intelligence analyst before that, product marketing specialist or product marketing director, and software engineer. I worked in the data storage industry for 23 years, and it was issues related to drug addiction, the opioid crisis, chronic illness, something I thought was called chronic fatigue or Lyme disease at the time, but I would describe it differently. But nonetheless, that's how it was at the time. And maybe a little bit of questionable activity with respect to how certain assets were handled in the tech industry. But that is really a little bit of a sideshow compared to the things which I just mentioned, which about 10 or so years ago made me more curious about what the heck was going on. Why aren't these things being reported in main media? I didn't even call it main media. I just said the news at the time. And that led me to this whole expedition, this adventure of going online and doing research and stumbling into all the garbage that's put out there by what I thought was the truth, or the independent media, which is really just a new way of branding. It's just another branch of the controlled media. It's just done differently. It's done in a way to catch the stragglers. It's done in a way to catch the sheep, which have been wandering out. They found a little opening in the fence, and they think that they are surrounded by the truth sayers. But no, they're not. Nonetheless, I broadcast from up about 30 miles or so, 30 miles, 30 minutes away from Boston, depending upon traffic conditions. It could be 2 hours. And as an analyst, I've covered many areas related to, I wouldn't say I'm necessarily a tech channel, but even though I was in the tech industry for a long time, but one thing I am interested in is the powering of data centers, of computer centers. That was a very frequently referred to and discussed topic when I was in the industry. And although I knew, it's the conditions of data centers, how much energy they need, cooling, peak demands at different times of the day, and so on. Where's the power coming from? Is it a stable power source, etc.? I mean, I used to talk about all of those things, the energy efficiencies of different storage systems. That's really what I focused on more than main processing units. But with the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic having happened, one thing that we've learned after this pandemic, which I guess I just happened to time my exodus, my departure from the tech industry perfectly in the late summer of 2019, so that almost my entire 6+ year broadcasting career right now, and I'm really more of a researcher and an archivist more than an interviewing channel. It's been a considerable amount of time, actually, collecting and organizing assets. And I'm going to go over a few new ones before I read the articles of today. But with having left when I did, COVID-19 has dominated. And COVID-19, when we dug in and we've assessed what's really going on behind the scenes here, it is, and we use this word very loosely and liberally, so don't take it too literally, but the Human Genome Project. Now, the Human Genome Project officially ended in the year 2001. But the pursuit of understanding, or pursuing a greater understanding of the machinery of life, in particular the machinery of human life, and knowing how it ticks, and knowing how to maybe make adjustments to it to optimize it, to lengthen it, to fix whatever malady may exist. This pursuit started a long time ago. At the very least, World War II, and beforehand. Now, of course, people have always wanted to live longer. That's been a given for a long time. But knowing that there is this thing which they correlate or they compare to code DNA, that would be, and maybe we can understand it. Maybe we can understand the physics of life and not only be along for the ride, but actually even as a race, as a species, participate in our own evolution. This is a mindset which started back around World War II and maybe even a little beforehand. So given the fact that it's the year 2025, that means this is at least 80 years in the running. And if the Human Genome Project ended in 2000, 2001, that means we're about 24 years after that, and the pursuit is still ongoing. Different people have different ideas about what's the extent of what is possible. Should we even be doing it at all? Some people may wonder. What are the moral implications of this? How much should be disclosed? And of course, because of the amount of money involved and the amount of lives that could be lost in this pursuit, this is, without a doubt, the highest level national security discussion agenda worldwide. No doubt. No doubt at all. And it behind the scenes connects with so many things. I don't know what else. I don't. It connects with so many what seem to be at first disparate things, but when you can accept the fact that it is the top agenda item, it starts to make sense. Now, here is an article from the IEEE Spectrum, and this is a fairly recent article, July 7th, 2025. United States tackles nuclear waste. Researchers transform the most persistent radioactive sludge. And it's written by Julia Tilton. So, some background here. Okay, some background here. Nuclear power plants using enriched uranium, which takes a lot of energy to make, to manufacture, to process. It's generally understood that they create nuclear waste. And we know from movies and from popular culture that nuclear waste is bad. You leave nuclear waste out, and animals can mutate. If you come into contact with nuclear waste, you can get cancer, you could become deformed. Jello can become angry and suddenly start running around and creating a blob and gathering people up. There can be a zombie apocalypse. Nuclear waste causes all kinds of crazy things. It's bad, 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 bad stuff. It's one of the worst things. And it's just this unfortunate byproduct of atomic energy. And the issue of how to dispose of it has been a popular issue or for decades right now. It's been discussed. It's been known. I don't know how long. Okay, atomic energy, of course, nuclear power plants started in the 1950s, and they were being manufactured by the AEC, the Atomic Energy Commission, which was in the United States of America, which was then brought into at least within the United States Department of Energy. I know that there are worldwide consortiums that oversee this stuff as well. But different nations, sometimes they make some things public and they keep some things private. But it has been discussed, and it is known to some that it's possible to maybe reprocess or recycle nuclear waste to get more, to extract more energy out of it before it's considered totally done. I've heard some people say it's just too expensive, you can't do it. And I've also seen that as much as 96% of the potential energy is not harnessed from spent nuclear fuel. It's like they use it. It's like, I don't know. It's like taking a bubble gum and one bite and putting it aside, right? After, several minutes, you get all the good flavor out of chewing gum. I don't chew bubble gum anymore, but I used to. My dentist didn't like me to do it. I think I understand why, but I used to do it. But it takes a few minutes to get all of the goodness out of it, and a little bit like that. You put it one bite, and then you're done, and that's they consider to be the what is effectively taken out of spent nuclear fuel by the time it's put aside. And then there's this big issue of what to do with it. Now, many want to pursue, or a growing number of people are becoming aware that more energy could be extracted from it, and they want to pursue the reprocessing of it. I don't know how many nations, if any nations, are currently doing that. But one thing that we have noted is that what nations typically do with their spent nuclear fuel is they stack it up somewhere. Now, if this stuff is as bad as many people have said it is, why not bury it somewhere? Like, just go out to the deepest trench of the Pacific Ocean and just drop it in there. There's got to be something, okay? A place you can put it where there's, as far away from human life as possible. Now, they did dump some stuff off boats sometime around the 1950s, maybe early 1960s, but since then they've stopped doing that into the ocean. That's what the United States did. But since then they've stopped doing that, and they stack it up. And many other countries are building very high-quality caves to store their spent nuclear fuel. And these are not just caves where they dig the hole, they throw in the spent nuclear fuel, and then they close them up. They are like super highways underground, multiple levels where you can back trucks up, and you have high-quality concrete containers that the spent nuclear fuel is in, and it's well lit, and it's properly tracked, and it's incredible. They're incredibly clean. It's almost as if maybe someday they would want to get at them again. It's very odd, but you see this pattern repeated everywhere. This stuff is considered to be one of the worst things on Earth, but at the same time, it's put in places that are very conveniently accessible. It doesn't really make any sense. Okay, it never really made any sense, unless of course, the plan has been for a long time to reprocess them. Now, I wouldn't bet my life that you can get 96% of the, or I should say 96% of the effective energy is still in there. But it's possible that a lot of it is, that a lot remains. And many places that have nuclear power plants are just creating these huge stockpiles of spent nuclear fuel. And one thing that I've observed, and you'll notice that it repeated in this article and in other articles, is this weird date of 2050 and 2060. All of these locations which are being built for spent nuclear fuel have to be safe until 2050 or year 2060, approximately, right? And it's like, well, that's 25 years, 35 years from now. I guess that's a good start, but I was told that this stuff is radioactive for thousands of years. So that, I guess it's better than nothing, but what do you plan to do after that? So, what this article does here is it introduces us to the fact that President Trump has been signing executive orders and been pursuing spending and investment in tackling nuclear waste and getting involved in the game of reprocessing it. Now, why not do this today? Why not pursue it now? Why are we having all of these stockpiles created? And what is it with the year 2050? Well, I'm jumping the gun a little bit here. But what this is, I think a lot of this spent uranium, after it's reprocessed, if it could be reprocessed, is going to be used for data centers. Big, massive data centers, and it's going to be put into the small form nuclear reactors to power these data centers. So data centers have their energy source close by. You don't need to send all that power over the grid. It can be reliable. You don't lose energy in the process of transmitting it, et cetera, et cetera. And with all of this spent nuclear fuel, there's the amount of potential energy which we can get from this in the future is massive. But the world isn't heading towards a population increase. And I thought we need the energy now. As a matter of fact, I keep hearing that we have all this climate change stuff and we're worried about more carbon. Why not reprocess it now? Why does everyone seem to be okay with waiting 25 to 30 years? Again, I know I'm getting ahead of it, but when you're going back, COVID-19, the Human Genome Project, the pursuit of understanding the machinery of life, that's going to require an enormous amount of data and an unholy amount of power to make those data centers work, to maybe figure it out, okay, maybe come to some conclusions, useful conclusions. Well, the data that needs to be processed is not available yet. It's still 20, 30 years away. We just had our first batch of kids born, at least within England, I've heard. I don't think the United States is there just yet, where they are collecting genetic information from the day of birth. They will be tracked. There's centralized databases. There will be regular sampling. As much data will be collected as possible, behavioral data, vaccine data, proximity to other people data, and this data is all going to be just thrown into computers, and the computers are going to be searching for useful patterns because they don't even know, because it's not possible to actually use traditional, controlled testing to figure out how the machinery of life works. You can't do, hey, let's try a whole generation of people with this, this gene set to this value, and then we're going to have a bunch of people with this gene set to another value, and we're going to have one set live in all these conditions, and this other set of people live in all these different conditions, and then collect all data, and then you're going to try another gene, and then you're going to, have another 30 years. No, you can't do that. We'll be here for 1 billion years when you have to do all the scenarios. So what they have to do is just collect everything, every piece of data, and the computers are going to try to find patterns. That's what they're going to do. The data isn't here yet, though. Meaning that as the data is collected and as these future data centers are built, which will probably use technology which doesn't even exist yet, but we do foresee that they are going to need a lot of power. So it appears as though what is happening behind the scenes here is that there is a plan to collect and stockpile as much energy as possible for the data centers of the future. That's what's happening here. And now, when you think of it that way, it becomes clear that aside from humans willing to subject themselves to data collection and effectively medical experimentation, aside from humans, the second most necessary resource to accomplish this goal of better understanding the machinery of human life is energy. Energy and computers, of course. And isn't it, now it makes sense. Now you know why that this hand and this glove were used, the Department of Energy, to oversee a lot of this stuff, because they needed to oversee the creation and the development of computers, of the necessary computers, and the collection of and the stockpiling of enough energy to be able to accomplish this in the future, 20, 30, 40 years. And you'll notice that these dates just keep popping up. Now, I still need to read the article here, but the other realization that I've had is that in the United States, sometime in the late 70s, early 1980s, nuclear power went from being something that was good to something that was considered to be dangerous. The United States stopped building nuclear power plants. We had meltdowns such as 3 Mile Island, and suddenly all of this stuff kind of was put on the back burner a little bit. And we went from worried about the coming snowpocalypse to climate change and global warming and too much carbon. Starting around the 1980s, the excuses started to pile up to not use energy, to reduce energy usage. We're gonna destroy the planet. We can't do anything that yields more carbon. We can't burn that oil. And we need to protect all of our spent nuclear fuel. So it is also possible that everything that we've heard about climate change and carbon credits and all this other stuff, why? Why is it? I mean, I'm open to the possibility that there is human-induced climate change. I'm totally open to the possibility. I've never denied it. I'll tell you what, past few years, I've used my snowblower a lot less. Now, that doesn't mean the whole planet is warming up, but my snowblower doesn't get used very often lately, past few years. But that's just the past few years, right? I guess that could change in any minute. What I'm trying to say is that this is a whole huge concern, climate change, carbon emissions, and everything else, which is probably also rooted and coming up with excuses, reasons to save as much energy as possible for future use. They don't want people, just buying as bigger and bigger pickup trucks today and driving around. They want the energy available in the future. A future where there's going to be a lot of old people. Where are they going to have all the young people to work in the future to collect all that energy to power all those data centers? We're heading towards a population collapse. So you can see a lot of these things, at least speculating, probably connect like that. So here's one article here. It's a 5-minute article. Let's read this. Okay. Again, this was from July 7th, 2025. United States tackles nuclear waste. Researchers transform the most persistent radioactive sludge. The United States' 90,000-ton stockpile of radioactive nuclear waste has long been a liability, but researchers are increasingly eyeing it as a resource. New techniques in transforming spent fuel, new nuclear fuel cycle directives from the Trump administration, and the doling out of a Biden-era $40 million research program together aim to repurpose nuclear waste on a commercial scale. In a suite of executive orders announced on May 23, 2025, United States President Donald Trump directed the United States Department of Energy to create recommendations for domestic recycling of nuclear waste and identifying opportunities to work with the private sector. And in January, I presume this is 2025, the United States Advanced Research Projects Agency Energy, or ARPA-E, see, this is the stuff that you get on my channel that you won't get anywhere else, began awarding $40 million to 11 groups developing transmutation techniques that will reduce the radioactivity and amount of nuclear waste. The funding is part of ARPA-E's Nuclear Energy Waste Transmutation Optimized Now, or NEWTON, N-E-W-T-O-N program, announced in July 2024 under the Biden administration, which aims to make recycling the entire United States nuclear fuel stockpile economically viable by the 2050s. The federal support under two administrations has prompted physicists and energy researchers to turn their attention to nuclear waste in an effort to meet the Fed's ambitious goals. Quote, "It is technologically possible, but it will take significant investment and a meaningful commitment from the country to actually pull it off in 30 years, says Greg Pfeiffer, CEO at Shine Technologies, a fusion startup that is applying its expertise to nuclear waste. The company, based in Janesville, Wisconsin, received $4 million from ARPA-E's NEWTON program. How is nuclear waste reprocessed? Closing the nuclear fuel cycle involves separating the uranium and plutonium that make up more than 95% of nuclear waste and recycling them back into reactors as fuel. The technology to do this is established, but it is expensive to carry out commercially on a large scale, says Brett Rampal, Senior Director of Nuclear and Power Energy at Veriton, an energy research, investing, and strategy firm. There are no technologies that achieve complete uranium and plutonium extraction, so some amount of material is left over from the first step, Rampal said. The other 5% of nuclear waste, which is composed of long-lived radioactive material, cannot be reused as fuel and has traditionally been set aside to decay over hundreds of thousands of years. It's conundrum of what to do with this 5% that ARPA-E and several companies are trying to solve. Many companies are approaching the problem by trying to find a cost-effective way to shorten the lifespan of radioactive waste to tens or hundreds of years through transmutation. Curtis Roberts, Vice President of Communication at Orano, a Paris-based nuclear fuel cycle company that plans to work with Shine, said used fuel is full of good stuff. People are looking at what a big pile of waste. People are looking at what was a big pile of waste and going, if I pull this piece out, and if I pull that piece out, all of these bits and pieces have value in many cases. Here we go. This is a big quote here. For us, the business case of already having 90,000 tons of this stuff sitting around is pretty solid and pretty solid in and of itself. And then we're adding about 2,000 tons per year with the current reactor fleet. Orano and Shine plan to glean value from the long-lived isotopes in the spent fuel recycling process, and that last 5% of the waste that has traditionally been left to decay. Over the last decade, Shine has commercialized technology to separate isotopes for medical applications such as cancer treatment. Now, PFR is betting that the same strategy can be applied to nuclear waste. In Shine's technique, neutrons, a side product of its fusion process, are beamed at long-lived isotopes in nuclear waste to break them apart into shorter-lived isotopes. I'm getting a little bit lost here. You can read this. Getting into the details here, I'm not sure is too necessary. But the point is that it's being pursued. It's being pursued. They're investing it, but they just can't figure it out how to do it economically until 2050. It's oddly specific. It's like the Wright brothers one year saying, you know what, we think we're on the right track, but in 30 years, we're going to get this plane to work. Why? How do you know that? Unless it's already understood how to do it. But the goal is to keep the energy, the potential energy, stored. They don't want to use it now. The goal is to have it available for the future. The data is not there yet. And once the data is there, after another 20 or 30 years of data collection, of sampling, of new era of vaccines and so on, then they need to flip the switch and start going into overdrive. But the data isn't there yet. It's quite fascinating. So even the big data centers that are being built right now pale in comparison to what they're looking at in the future. Let's see here. Yeah, they really get into this stuff here. This is not a 5-minute read. They lied to me. Okay. I think I can understand the last subsection here. Nuclear waste recycling trends. Researchers in the United States initially developed the ability to separate uranium and plutonium from used nuclear fuel in the 1940s as part of the Manhattan Project. They've known it since the 40s. But nuclear waste recycling stalled during the Cold War and did not rise to commercial scale in the United States. A commercial facility did operate briefly in New York between 1966 and 1972 to reprocess spent fuel from both government-owned defense and commercial power reactors. In 1977, United States President Jimmy Carter shut down used fuel reprocessing as an anti-proliferation measure because plutonium can be pulled out and enriched to make weapons. Isn't that amazing? We need to save all of our spent nuclear fuel. We can't reprocess it now. We need to wait because someone could make a nuke out of it. Holy crap. But maybe we can do it in the year 2050 or the 2060 after we have, several decades of data collected. And we need to power data centers. By then, maybe we're not going to be worried about nukes anymore. Nukes being used as an excuse. Exactly as I expected. 1977. Joshua Lederberg became director of the Rockefeller Institute in 1981. I know that it wasn't Salvador Luria. It was DeVecchio. I can't think of the guy's name right now. De Silva, who I think it was in the late 1970s or early 1980s with Joshua Lederberg and several other people, were looking at a future where they were going to need to use a lot of computers to figure out the human genome. That idea started to percolate in the late 1970s. And suddenly, they couldn't figure, and suddenly that's the same time that nuclear reactors started to melt down. And around the same time that they realized, well, we can't do any more reprocessing because, you could make a nuke out of it. And then you hire some people, they have their protest signs with their magic markers and their cardboard. But behind the scenes, the big agenda is pursuing and advancing the understanding of the machinery of human life. That's what's going on behind the scenes. That's the real agenda. And we see it through this lens. We see it through a filter, and it comes out as climate change, nuclear weapons, gain-of-function viruses, pandemics, scary radiation, all of these things which seem very disparate. But it's all kind of driven by one thing, because that is the most important thing. That is the most important national security priority. When fuel recycling was opened back up under United States President Ronald Reagan, the technology was too expensive to be cost-effective commercially. Today, the calculus has shifted. Trump's executive order in May of 2025 calls for an evaluation of the United States' used fuel reprocessing practices and has generated a broadly positive response from the nascent industry. The order gives the Department of Energy 8 months to report back on the recommended policy steps for managing nuclear waste and developing a sustainable long-term fuel cycle with improved recycling processes. The order also calls on the Department of Energy to consider a government-owned, privately operated nuclear fuel recycling facility. Globally, only a handful of countries have also have the capabilities for nuclear fuel reprocessing, including China, France, Japan, Russia, and the United Kingdom. Those reprocessing facilities handle commercial and defense-related nuclear waste, targeting material that can be separated into uranium and plutonium isotopes. While developments are underway in places such as France, Japan, and Russia to recover other isotopes from waste, such efforts have yet to be commercialized at scale. Currently, waste remaining from fuel recycling is vitrified and then cast in stainless steel or other packaging that can be stored for thousands of years, but usually stored in a well-lit cave, indexed, marked, itemized, and usually put in a place where a diesel-powered truck can back up to it and pull it back out in a very easy, convenient way. I added the last part. It's 100% true. Now, the other article to highlight here, this is a longer article. You could find all of this. This stuff is all publicly available. It's not behind firewalls or anything. This is the Bulletin, or the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists. To win on nuclear energy, the United States should lose reprocessing. This is from May 28th, 2025, a little bit earlier. So this is the again, atomic scientists, I don't know if it's an agency or a lobby, saying, don't reprocess it. Why? It's fascinating. The siren song of spent nuclear fuel reprocessing beckons again, selling a sweet melody that actually threatens to stymie hopes of a nuclear energy revival in the United States. So nuclear energy revival won't happen, according to them, because we're investing in reprocessing. That is a very bizarre thinking. A tantalizing technology that promises to recycle the used fuel that comes out of nuclear power reactors into even more reactor fuel. Reprocessing is marketed as an elixir that turns refuse into resource. But the marketing ignores serious problems. Reprocessing doesn't work as advertised, and instead has a history of bloating budgets, exasperating radioactive waste challenges, and creating serious security concerns. So, security concerns, which, look, if you could steal a little bit of plutonium and pack it into a canister and compress it or light a match or do whatever else you need to do and create a chain reaction and cause the Earth to be pulverized into dust, yeah, that would be a problem. But just like worrying about, some super secret RNA sequence, which can suddenly, coat the entire planet with spike proteins, it's a mythology. So they're using mythologies to justify doing something or not doing something. Exasperating radioactive waste challenges? Well, maybe. And the first part, bloating budgets. Well, look, money is no option at this point. We just spent like what? $10, $15 trillion on that pandemic to accomplish what? I don't know. They will print all the money necessary to do this. Money is not the issue. But this group of people, they don't want to do it. And I don't think it's because, well, let's just continue reading here. Attempts at reprocessing end up draining limited resources that could otherwise be used to support nuclear energy technologies that are proven to work. So it's disappointing to see reprocessing play prominently in several executive orders on nuclear energy that President Trump signed last Friday. The ambition to foster rapid growth in new nuclear energy is commendable, showing a clear vision for meeting burgeoning electricity demand. But reprocessing would only inhibit this laudable goal. There is still opportunity to right the ship, however. There is no magical solution for eliminating nuclear waste. The highly radioactive, non-recyclable. So they're saying you can't do anything about it. It just piles up. You can't do anything about it. All you can do is store it in a clean, well-lit, well-inventoried, commercial facility that is easily accessible by trucks. That is one of the oddest things I've ever heard. While we do not know how to safely and effectively manage this material, reprocessing it only creates more problems. We don't know what to do with it. It's one of the worst things that has ever been made. They don't know what to do with it. All they know what to do is to keep it nearby and easily accessible by truck. Sometimes the answer is just staring at us right in the face. You can read the rest of the article, but you can see there's different positions on this. So the first article doesn't say that the reprocessing, it can happen today and it's going to be up and running. They're sort of saying, hey, it's great that the investment is being made, and maybe by the year 2050. And you'll notice that word 2050 pops up a lot. When it came to the massive, a lot of these new facilities that are being made to store spent nuclear fuel, you'll keep seeing that. Oh, it's good until 2050. It's good until 2060. Like, well, why? I guess after that, you're just going to have to take it out and, well, what? Then you can reprocess it. Then there'll be data, I guess, to power data centers in the future. So it's unfortunate that these articles don't get more visibility. But most of this stuff, I believe now, is about, it's really about putting energy aside. It's about stockpiling energy for the future. It's the one part that I've missed. I should have known, given my expertise, which is waning, I have to admit. I'm not in the computer industry anymore. But I should have known. It was the most obvious question. Okay, big data centers, AI, they're going to collect a lot of data. And it's going to need a lot of energy. Why didn't I put together that the data, the real data, is not here yet? It's 20, 30 years from now. What's happening right now is preparations, I guess. The next 10 or 20 years, they're going to be trying maybe to optimize the future. I'm not really sure. Practice makes perfect. I don't know. But we're working towards that. But the real energy surge isn't going to be in the future. I've seen places comment on President Trump saying that the energy demands of the United States, the electrical energy demands of the United States by the year 2050 will be increased 4 times. Now, how is that possible? The expectations for the United States population is only to, I think it's currently, 330 million plus, is to maybe be 370 million and by the year 2050. It's not going to be a billion. And in fact, the target population, or I should say the expected population of the United States by the year 2050 or 2060 has been decreasing. If we're having, 50 million immigrants cross the border a year, like they've been saying, how is it possible that the expected population of the United States is only going to be about 380 million people? And in fact, I think it's dipped down to 360 million people. Oh, I don't know. Low birth rates, drug addiction. Maybe they're vastly, vastly overstating how many people actually cross the border illegally. I think that's possible. I'm for strong border controls, but, I mean, it is what it is. Anyways, there's no reason why we would need that much more energy capacity, or I should say, to provide that much energy in the future with a population that isn't expected to increase all that much. Unless, again, it's because of the AI. And we need to, quadruple our energy consumption in 2060 because Alexa is going to be that much more capable? Or is it because these data centers are going to be doing, again, just an unfathomable amount of data processing based upon all the data that they are going to be collecting from us and from our children over the next 20, 30 years? I think the latter is more likely what's going to be happening, and that's how all of these things connect. So maybe a little bit of a weak show today, but I just thought I'd spend a little bit of time to read these, to put these ideas out there for you. And one thing I'm liking and I'm proud of with respect to my program is this is not complaining. This isn't, and nor is this a fear-mongering message. And presumably, if you enjoy watching my program or have supported me before, just want to know, well, why? Really, why? And I don't like answers that are, because the world is run by psychopaths, because they're Satanists, because there's an island where they eat babies, because of Zionism. I don't like stupid answers. I don't like lazy think. Clearly, a lot of people are putting a lot of thought and going out of the way for something or other. I want to know what it is. I want to know, Why are so many people so gosh darn committed to the global warming narrative? Why are they so certain that it's carbon? Maybe it is, but I'm not totally convinced. I'm open to it, but things like that, it doesn't make sense to me. So I'm irritated. And I don't like the answer simply being, well, some people are real bastards and they just like to screw with other people and they just want more money, so they're just inconveniencing people and they want to be jerks and they're power hungry and they're Satanists and eat babies and et cetera, et cetera. I can't stand that. Why? There's got to be a better reason than all of that nonsense. By the way, I think alt media is turning out to be a bigger enemy of the people than the mainstream media. Because anyone that wants to think winds up here and they get destroyed and humiliated and embarrassed and associated with crap. I want to know why. Maybe there is a good reason behind it. Maybe if there was open dialogue with a lot of people about, what, it is believed that that by conserving energy for the future and the pursuit of this advancement of the human genome really is something that should be uniting people, a shared vision of the future. Come on, talk to us like grown-ups. I think a lot of people would actually be like, okay, I could do that. I think that would actually, I don't know, maybe I think too much of people. And you know what? If that's a fault of mine and if I'm going to go to the grave thinking that way, making that mistake, then so be it. I think on judgment, I think it'll be better for me to have thought too much of people than too little. So, with that said, quick show today, kind of weird, kind of awkward, but just some stuff to put out there for you. And maybe we'll do another reading later. Oh, yes, on books, I did scan in the Larry Gostin Public Health. Oops, that mouse doesn't work because it was upside down. Power Duty Restraint book. I scanned this in last night, all 500 pages of it. It includes at least, let's see here, page 332 to 460. So 130 pages of this 500-page book is nothing but citations. Larry Gostin of Georgetown has worked very, very, very hard to justify why you have no rights in light of pandemics. You have no right to choose your vaccination status. Very important book. Boring. And not for everyone. But I scanned it in, and if you go to the little books icon on my site, you can now watch it. I also made available a legacy, Hidden Legacy, Esther Liederberg. I scanned that book in yesterday. This book was written fairly recently, so if you want to go with the PDF for your archive, for your research, buy the book to support the author, Thomas Schindler. And I'm halfway through scanning one copy of one of these. These are the textbooks written by Thomas Brock called The Biology of Microorganisms. This is one of the most important microbiology courses ever made. It talks extensively about bacterium and phages and plasmids. Of course, Thomas Brock is the person that went to all of the hot pools out in Colorado and found the form of life which was necessary for Kary Mullis to create the PCR test. Viruses. Isn't that interesting, huh? RNA phages. Huh. That's kind of odd. I thought there was just coronaviruses. But anyways, I'm scanning in a first edition that I found, which was printed in 1970. It's pretty rare. You can't find the first edition anywhere on eBay right now. So it's a 600-plus page book. And when I scan it in, it'll be the only publicly available PDF of that. So started working on that last night, and I'll finish that up today. So I'm continuing to do that with the books. And I needed to do this with the books because I had some people send me some gifts, and I and I need to have everything indexed and archived. I just can't open up an envelope and accept a gift and say thank you. Because if I do, now I have something that is just out of sort with respect to my accounting here. It's amazing. I don't even have profitability, but I still I still need to manage all of these assets somehow. Okay, so I needed to catch up on my book archiving for that purposes right now. That's why these things are being done in this weird order. So that's it for now, everyone. Thank you. Take care. Thanks for listening. Stay positive. Stay thinking. And I will see you tomorrow. Love you.